Wonderful. Well, it is an honor and a pleasure to visit with everybody today. And we are recording this live. So if you have friends that couldn't get on this webinar, it is truly a life impacting webinar. Dave and I have been touched by this work deeply, deeply. It has not only saved our marriage, but we had a good relationship. But have you ever had something good and you just know that there are more possibilities ahead in your life? And that's what we were at. We were in a place of openness, of wanting more, and of knowing that we could be capable of having a better relationship than what we were having. So ask and you shall receive. We actually were in a very dark place, in a tough time in our lives. I was going through a lot of trauma. I was fighting an illness. We were going through a lot of difficult times, and we were fighting a lot. Dave and I were not getting along. And it's amazing what happens. Sometimes breakdown needs to happen in order to rebuild your life to a whole new level. So that is what this webinar is about today. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys so that you can see some of the things that have been so impactful. 1 second. Wonderful. So welcome to our webinar. Today, it's a powerful, powerful topic, and it talks about the maternal instinct and how we have been influenced by whatever mother figure helped us raise, and now how we in turn influence others, whether it be our employees, our business partners, our kids, our husbands, our wives, because of those instincts that we have received. And for those of you who are new, we have a lot of new faces today. My name is Yvette Uloa. I have been tremendously impacted by this little book that you see right there on the screen, The Queen's Code. And the Queen's Code came at a time that I was sharing earlier, where Dave and I were going through a lot of breakdown. We loved each other, but we were fighting like cats and dogs. We were even considering a separation because nothing was working and we didn't understand what was happening. As I was in a retreat in Hawaii, one of my friends who was going through a very tough divorce, she said, you better go home tonight. You better order this book, Queen's Code, and you better read it tonight. And she's not one to be bossy or to try to tell me what to do. I was actually very shocked by her demeanor. I went home that night. I'm coachable and teachable. She said, had I had that book, I wouldn't be going to the tough part of my divorce right now. I would be a much better individual. And so I started reading the book on Kindle that night, and I also ordered the hard copy so when I got home, and I started having different conversations with Dave as a result. I started showing up different for him because what I didn't know at the time is that he was entering a new level of his life where he needed a different kind of support from me. And I wasn't offering the support to him because I was just going based on old behaviors of what I have always provided for him as a wife, a partner, a friend. Well, he was in a different phase of his life. I wasn't supporting him, and we were fighting like cats and dogs. We were arguing about our business, about my health, about all the choices and the hardships that we had gone through for the last 5 years. And so I read the book. In the book, they talk about something called frog farming, where a lot of us great women, we will find a perfectly great man, and through a small set of actions, we will slowly diminish that man's ability to produce results. And we will slowly help turn that man into a frog, until the man dissipates, builds resentment, walks away. And I had become a professional frog farmer. And in that book, it teaches you hero's language, how to speak to a man in a way that he will not only receive you, but worship you. And I had read so many personal development books before on relationships. And every book was either about manipulation or playing a hard game or play hard to get, give them space, do this. And it was all manipulation, nothing natural. I've never found a book that changed my life so much. I am a Queen's Code graduate. I have helped many other women not only have the most amazing relationships with their spouses, but also their kids. Because you're either raising a boy to be a frog or you're raising a boy to be a king. And it really depends on what language and what kinds of things are you doing to diminish them or to empower them. Because guess what? A lot of women complain, well, he treats me like dirt. But we don't see that we are doing certain things that are creating that kind of return. And there are better ways to truly have a partnership. So our affiliate with Allison Armstrong, and 100% of our affiliate goes to programs that we're doing through our nonprofit, is togetherweriseup.com. You can go there and order the book, order some of her audios. Again, it's an incredible program. And I'm going to get started now. The name of this topic is Empowering Women, Maternal Instincts and Their Effect on Legacy or Reflection. And by attending tonight's webinar, you're going to learn how to be a more satisfied partner, friend, or child by understanding what is driving a woman's maternal expression in each situation. Now, here's what's important. This can help people understand women better and have compassion for the mothers in your life. Or even women showing a maternal side to their employees, their business partners, their friends, including themselves if they are a mom or a caregiving figure to someone. We are going to understand today what drives maternal expression. Maternal expression is really human animal instinct. We all have instincts as we raise our kids, as we do business, as we make decisions. And those instincts are being driven by a couple of things. Number one, fear. And number two, values. So instincts are driven by fear and values. So I'm going to talk a little bit about human animal versus human spirit. These are two modalities of every human being. As a human being comes to this earth and we make choices, we can come from instinct, which sometimes it's our reaction. It's the way we survive. It's the way we protect ourselves. A lot of times it's good to use our instinct, but a lot of times because it's reactionary, it ends up creating consequences and problems and issues. When we come from human animal, unless we're protecting ourselves in a dangerous situation, which it's good to use our human animal, a lot of times what happens is we have fear, scarcity, competition, some of those things that sometimes end up in places that we don't want to end up. Then there's the other side, human spirit. And that is where choice lies. Have you ever been in a place where you said something and then you regretted it later? That was your human animal speaking. And how about having choice and biting your lips of not wanting to react to a text or somebody or something and waiting 24 hours and then coming from a place of power rather from a place of reaction? That is human spirit. That is where our life gets enhanced. That is, we have partnership, flow, creativity. And now, for purposes of this topic, maternal expression is not just about mothers, women who are mothers. Whether we have chosen to be a mother or not, most women have some type of maternal expression that shows up in the way we care for others, including our pets or our loved ones. It's a caretaking quality. So we're not just talking about moms who physically have children. It's just an instinct that we are born with. So for many women that are not compelled to reproduce in any way, they will often express their instinct by creating businesses, organizations, and nurturing their employees. So we're going to talk a little bit about healing today. I see a lot of words I put there: success, pressure, pain, compassion, joy, upset, courage, gratitude. understanding, effectiveness. Some people will attribute their success to their mothers and the pressure that their mother's legacy instinct put on them, and they're grateful for it. But for many people, it was also a source of great pain. A lot of pain that children experience is because they don't understand what has a mother or a mother figure do what she does, say what she says, and sometimes they are hurt and they experience being disrespected or not seen. A father or a father figure can also do this as well. But today we're going to keep it to the mother, since this is an empowering women topic. If you can understand what is driving a mother to do what she's doing, you can have compassion for what's driving her. And the result of compassion is understanding. And the result of understanding is being effective. And understanding why a mother did what she did or did not do can actually be very healing. So maternal instincts. I used to think that the area where people bring up their biggest amount of human animal is in a relationship, man and woman, or whatever relationship, loving relationship, passionate relationship. Actually, learning from my research with Alison Armstrong, who's my mentor and the author of this work, she says that the place where the biggest amount of human animal and instinct is used is in raising children. And how is instinct triggered? It is triggered by either a threat or opportunity. Think about it. Sometimes you see a threat and immediately your instinct takes over and wants to react. Other times you see an opportunity. I have this great opportunity to buy this seminar, but it's only good till tomorrow. I have 24 hours to make a decision. And it's driving our human animal like crazy because we want to release that tension and go buy that audio. And so it gets triggered by both opportunity or threat. It also gets triggered by potential. So when a mom or an employer or a business partner is looking at potential, it also triggers human animal. And potential is just another word for opportunity. It's the same kind of idea that if you don't fulfill your potential, something terrible will happen. In human animal, what drives maternal expression is fear and values. So the fear of whatever it is that's happening at the moment and their values. The fear could be of the past, the present, the future. And nobody makes good decisions from fear. Maternal expression is also driven by what mode the mother is in. And I'm going to talk a little bit about hunting mode versus gathering mode. Hunting mode, think about these two modes as two operating systems. Back in the day, mostly the women were the gatherers. They would gather the seeds, they would gather the water, they would come back and talk a lot of detail, tell all the women where the berries were, where the ripe fruits were. So they were traditionally gatherers. In the past, men were traditionally hunters. They went to hunt the deer, hunt the food for the day, and if they didn't hunt and pay this unbelievable amount of focus, the tribe would not eat. And so traditionally men were hunters and women were gatherers. But with different changes in culture, society, women have also mastered the art of hunting. As a matter of fact, there's some tribes in Africa where the women are the ones that do the hunting. And the mode of hunting, so think of this as two operating systems. There's no right or wrong, and most people behave in one of the operating systems. Some people switch back and forth. The operating system of hunting is when somebody is very focused. They don't see distractions. They're able to cut off distractions. They're all about the facts. They're closed. They have a timeline. And that is a person in hunting mode. A person in gathering mode is more relaxed, is more open, more communicative, will tell you a lot of details, will possibly talk a little more, be more relaxed, no timelines. So those are the different modes. What happens is most men, most of the time, because of the high levels of testosterone, they usually have 10 to 30 times more testosterone than women do. Naturally, they are in hunting mode from age 0 to 50. After 50, when some of that testosterone naturally starts to drop off, they are able to switch back and forth a little bit more between gathering and hunting. How this shows up for men is that after 50, they're a little more communicative. They like to tell more stories. Some of them even like to cuddle a little bit more. Meanwhile, for women, we are highly adaptable to survive. Men are too, obviously, but we went from being traditionally gatherers to now we're able to switch back and forth between hunting and gathering, sometimes multiple times in 1 hour, sometimes multiple times in a 10-minute period. And so it is very interesting to understand these two modes. And if you haven't watched our first 2 webinars of Understand Women and our first 2 webinars of Understand Men, please go back. They are free. They will give you an amazing spectrum of how to have an amazing level of communication, drop tension, drop conflict in all your relationships because of learning how to honor people when they're in hunting mode, how to honor people when they're in gathering mode, and how to create a true partnership. Because everything in partnership is counterintuitive, meaning you're going to want to do that out of human animal. You're going to have to choose and come from human spirit. So if I'm making sense, would you guys just raise your hand so I can make sure that you're coming along with me? I would really appreciate that. And there's a little button. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Jen, Fernando, Steph, David. Thank you so much. And also on Facebook, we have a few people. There's a little button there that has you that you can raise your hand. So I know some people sometimes raise their hand, which is cool too, but I can't see the video. Thank you, Marianne, Pete. Thank you guys very, very much. This really helps me. So talking about hunting and gathering in the maternal instinct. When we are in hunting mode, this will show up as legacy in the instinct that we try to nurture in our kids, employees, whoever that we're influencing. When we are in gathering mode, it'll show up as reflection, meaning are they a reflection of us? Are they a part of the tribe, a reflection of the tribe? And so neither mode is right or wrong, but some mothers, because of fear and values, will choose to raise their child in hunting mode, in a legacy focus, or in gathering mode, in a reflection focus. And I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about that. We're going to talk about legacy, which is the mode of hunting mode. So if a mother is operating mostly in hunting mode, and that is where her fears are based, the maternal expression is all about the accomplishments, the results, and the status of her children. Okay, so many of you maybe didn't get raised by a mother. Maybe it was a grandmother or a teacher and somebody that influenced you in this area of legacy. And now what's important to remember is that they are driven, when people are in human animal, which most of humanity out there are in human animal, they're driven by fear and their values. The main fear is that the child won't succeed. So there's an amount of pressure that's put on the child because of the fear that if I don't put this pressure on my child, they're not going to succeed. They're not going to build their legacy, and our family might die. So it is do or die. And if you think about it, because when a mother is raising somebody or a mother figure is raising someone, her child is her legacy. Her child is her future. Her child is her immortality, and she wants that to survive. So as a result, there's a lot of energy around what her child has built, what her child has produced, accomplished, because that determines whether the child will succeed or not. I'll give you guys an example. I am so grateful for my mom. She has been my hero. She's raised me as a single mom. My dad left when I was 1 year old, and she just showed me my whole future. And ever since I was a little girl, she encouraged me to speak up, to have a personality. She had me perform at the age of 3 and be on TV. And she would tell me, you're never going to rely on anybody. You're going to be successful. You're going to do this. I believe in you. She had me on TV and always encouraging me to join contests and pageants and to go higher than the rest of the family had gone. I heard stories such as, your grandmother was the first woman to graduate from the university in economics. Back then, no woman was allowed to go to the university for that degree. And so now it's your turn to leave a legacy for the family. So I was so grateful because I learned so much and I received so many blessings from my mom. And there's always another side where sometimes a child, and this is just one aspect of my raising, I had a few others, but there's also aspects where maybe a child might feel too much pressure, or a child might feel pushed, or maybe taken into a direction where they don't want to go. I remember for a little while, my parents really wanted me to be teachers like them. And they're both music teachers. They're amazing. And I was talented in music. So like, no, we really want you to be a music teacher. And I tried being a sub teacher and I hated it. And I was like, oh, why are they pushing me? But they had the best intentions because they wanted legacy for their child. At the time, one doesn't understand that. But what I didn't realize is I ended up being a teacher anyway. I'm teaching here today. It's just something that God has put in my heart. But it's funny how at that moment one doesn't see it and one sometimes even feels pressured. What else drives legacy? Values. So think of it as status, improving the family position, even who they marry. Oh, I hope she marries up. Or I hope she marries that doctor. He looked pretty successful. And it's also based on the culture. Some cultures promote some professions. Other cultures don't promote those professions and promote something else. So how many of you have had or know somebody who has had fear of not succeeding or has inherited that fear from somebody that helped raise you? So that's a question that actually starts making you think, was I raised legacy or was I raised reflection? And how did that have an impact on my life? So remember, it is built into hunting mode that if you succeed, you will live. Because remember, you're hunting the deer. Back in the old days, it's in our subconscious mind that if you don't hunt the deer, you don't bring the food back, the tribe will not survive. So if you don't have success, it's do or die. And legacy is coming from an intense fear instinct in the mother that her child will die if he or she doesn't succeed. It's all about producing results because we feel safe when they are productive, our children or children figures. We will have all kinds of tension about where the child is failing, which could mean that the parent is failing. So this is how it shows up when children are being raised. By the way, this could show up from a professor or a coach. Now, the values part, status is tied up into this because what a particular woman values, the kind of status that she views as positive and helping her child survive will come into play. Status also shows up in legacy as you are at least maintaining or hopefully improving the family position, the family name, the family finances, and the legacy. Sometimes I will hear my mom, she'll tell people, oh, her company bought her a Maserati. Yeah. And she's not bragging. She's just so proud because for her, legacy is very important. Nobody in the family ever had a car that we couldn't pronounce. And when we earned that in our company, it was a big deal. Later on, we got rid of it because obviously that wasn't what made us happy, but it's part of that legacy that is built into our subconscious mind. Our family standing in the world has been extended or improved by the child's accomplishment, success, or status. It's not also what they do. Like I said before, it could be who you married. You know, you hear the term, did you marry up? And it's also very individualized based on the culture. How this can show up when you are raising a child, or how you were raised, was that you received pressure to succeed or have accomplishments. You had expectations to uphold the family tradition. You had homework or projects assistance when they were like, yeah, you're going to have the best science project. I'm going to help you. And they stayed up all night to make sure that your science project was the best one. Or it could be constant pressure to behave a certain way, or to go to med school, or to do something specific that's important to the family legacy. A lot of times too, if something shows up that could risk the future of the legacy, they will hide it or disregard it or not tell anybody. No, this could hurt our legacy. We're not going to tell anybody about this. I had somebody that their daughter got a DUI and that was going to jeopardize her future. So they hired an attorney. They kind of put it under the bridge and made sure that there was no proof online anywhere. And they paid somebody to make sure that all that stuff was out of anywhere where people can read it, because that was going to jeopardize that person's future. It could also show up as pressure for sports or activities, and it can show up as fear of failure or disappointment. So I'd like to ask you, how many of you felt pressure from your parents growing up? You can either raise your hand or just do an imaginary. Thank you, Steph. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Fernando. Thank you, guys. I think we all have felt some pressure one way or another, right? So today is going to be very healing, because understanding that a parent figure just came from the best resources that they had to try to help us succeed or survive in this world is a very healing thing. Some of the sources of conflict that can arise for legacy: the child can end up hurt, disrespected, not seen, dishonored, and even feel like a failure. Or a mom's attitude of, my child's accomplishments are my accomplishments, can make a child feel very disrespected. As a matter of fact, Allison was sharing a story that a lot of times her mother took her accomplishments as if they were her own and almost took credit for all of Allison's accomplishments. So she was very careful when she told her children that she was proud of them, to make sure that she didn't take anything away from them and their own accomplishments. It can also be painful for the child when what the mother wants the child to succeed at is not in alignment with the child's expression of success. I didn't know any of this information, and I grew up very strong legacy. And I put so much pressure on my brothers to have the same legacy as me. And they were younger brothers from my mom's second marriage. So I was kind of like a stepmom or a second mom. And now I realize, and I'm sorry, Michael, if you're listening on the call today, I apologize for putting pressure on you, because I would say things like, well, make sure you read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You need to be an entrepreneur. We need to get out of this, teacher salary. We could do more as a family. And I was completely trying to install my own belief system and my own set of pressures on my brother. And my brother is one of the most amazing teachers, performers, musicians, and his heart was in that, not entrepreneurship. But I was trying to push upon him what I felt would be the best legacy for the family. So this can create tension and disappointment. It can create conflict with siblings, feeling overlooked, not good enough, or even jealousy if one is favored by the mother. Conflict can show up in marriages, ex-wife, co-parent, because everybody has a different idea of how the child should succeed. For example, in my husband's case, his dad wanted him to be an athlete, and his mom did not want him to get hurt. Her big fear was like he might get hurt, and she didn't want him to do boxing or soccer or basketball while his dad was pushing. So that was a conflict where they both wanted the highest and best good for him. However, there was that arguing that was happening, and that was affecting the children. If a mom wants to maximize their potential and the children feel objectified or dishonored, that can cause tension. Also tension with other moms, where people are bragging about their sons or children accomplishments. This can create competition and, saying things like, oh, my child learned to read at this age, or my daughter could walk at this age. Or, people would end up saying things like, I don't want to be around her. My kid doesn't measure up. And that creates a lot of tension. I had one of the amazing people that I interviewed for my research, and she's in her 30s. She's in the real estate profession. And she said, my parents were so excited about their child who could walk at 9 months and say difficult words by the age of 10 months old. They always bragged about him and gave him everything he wanted, like video games, brand new TVs, and I never got any of that. Another place where conflict can arise is with teachers. Tension, defensiveness. Maybe the mom can get irrationally upset that the teacher hasn't helped the child accomplish something. Or maybe do X, Y, Z. That's where fights come in, where the parents go in and yell at the teachers. All about legacy. So how many of you can have a little compassion for our mother figures? Because coming from their human animal, which is all they knew, they did the best they could with the resources they had. You guys can go ahead and raise your hand. Thank you, Fernando, Mavis, Kate, Marianne, Jen. Thank you very much. We had a few people on Facebook as well. Thank you, guys. Now let's go over to the gathering mode, which is the tribe, where the people in gathering mode are open, communicative, and how a mother raises a child in human animal within the gathering mode spectrum will show up as reflection. So we had legacy for hunting mode, we have reflection for gathering mode. How this shows up is connection, being a part of the herd, being a part of the tribe. We need to survive together. So in hunting mode is about accomplishment, stand out, results, improve the family legacy. In gathering mode, it's about fit in, connect. Don't stand out because you might not get saved. If you get kicked out of the tribe, you're not going to make it out in the world. So in gathering mode, the instinct is to connect and be a part of the herd. That's how we survive. We do things that are pleasing. We avoid displeasing. This translates to a mother's child. Her child is her reflection. What we mean by reflection is how my child looks, behaves, and acts is a direct reflection on me. So when you look good, I look good. Oh, she got that from me. She's a mama's girl. This even applies to dogs, by the way. If our dogs are well behaved, then we look good. If they're not so well behaved, sometimes we want to hide under the table because they are a direct reflection on us. So where this can have some issues is tension will arise when a child is not behaving. So we both won't be included because of this behavior. We might die. This leads to tension around looking and acting perfectly. So some of you on the call may have been raised with a reflection form of being raised, and how that showed up was you have to reflect, you have to do a good job, behave well in front of people, don't make me look bad, be a good part of the group. And it can help them connect and be accepted by others. You can actually see an enormous amount of tension in women when they think that their children are a poor reflection, and they will use the word disappointed. You can see their disappointment when they don't think that their child reflects them well. Like Allison, my mentor, shared that her mom would introduce her to people as chubs. And she would say, oh, she got that from her dad immediately. And she used to sew patterns. And then when people would come and compliment her on an outfit that she tailored for Allison, her mom would go, oh, it was a chubby pattern. And how do you think that made Allison feel when the mother was immediately letting people know, oh, she's not a reflection of me because she has whatever it is that the mother was displeased by. And so that's how we can start impacting our kids and the people that we work with when we say judgments. And somebody said this to me one time: the moment we judge somebody, we lose all ability to influence them. So instinct compels us to want them to be like us, to have the same talent as us, or to mirror our values. And again, there's no wrong or right. This is just how our instincts are built into our subconscious mode. So the whole purpose of teaching this is knowing, so that number one, we can heal parts of us that need healing. But number two, so that as we help influence others in our life with a maternal instinct, or have a partner that has a maternal instinct, that we use the best of our human spirit to help grow people and help raise giants rather than diminish people. Does that make sense? So instinct has a lot to do with this. And the ideal woman, it's this little voice we have as women. We call her the cave woman. She's the beauty police. And there's all sorts of control around trying to be expressed and ensuring that the child is a reflection of oneself. I interviewed a real estate professional in her 30s, and she said, my mom would always say, you have to look pretty. She had this competition thing with everyone in the family. She would say things like, don't make me look bad. Make sure you look good for the family event. You're going to be the most beautiful one in the family. Fear and values are what drive this instinct. And this is what drives maternal expression. The fear that shows up in this mode is that if my child is displeasing, they will be cut off from the herd, which means that I will be cut off from the herd and we will die. The instinct to do pleasing things and be pleasing. If the child acts right, they will be accepted and included in the group. How values shows up, it's all determined by the mother's values and the group's values, the culture, the herd, the tribe. So what is going to be pleasing to the herd? That's how the child needs to behave. What is going to keep our child connected and therefore keep the mother figure connected? The desired status and the values can be different in different cultures and for different women. I interviewed a business owner in his 40s, and he said to me, my mom, growing up, raised me with a strong gatherer's instinct for reflection. I heard things like, be a love bug, love your family, community, be a good person in society. You don't need to stand out. Because of that, I go out of my way to not stand out and be a part of the crowd. Although sometimes I find myself being the leader or the go-to person. And sometimes that feels uncomfortable. I also feel like I need to downplay my capabilities so that I don't piss anyone off or make someone else feel less than because they may not have that same level of skill or desire. This shows up as the child looks, acts, and talks like the mother, enjoying the same passions or the passions the mother always wanted to peruse, or extracurricular activities that the child does or doesn't take on. how a child will be dressed. Some mothers will spend a ton of money on the best outfits because that child is a reflection of them. Also, it'll show up in the groups that the mother joins because that's how they're able to connect to the child. It shows up in critiquing how the child is behaving, what the child is wearing, saying something like, stand up straight, or suck in your stomach. Don't say that. Don't do that. Fix your hair. Hold your fork properly. Some of the sources of conflict for reflection are a child can end up feeling picked apart, critiqued, objectified, not seen. How the child does reflects on the mother based on how the mother wants to be perceived. It's all about how the child looks, acts, talks, and the passions. This can create a great source of tension and disappointment when a child is not reflecting well on the mother. You can hear things like, oh, they got that from me. And this can create a response in the child like hell I did. I got that myself. I worked really hard for this. But then the mother's taking credit. It can also occur as meddlesome, especially for grown children. It can create conflict with siblings, conflict with spouse, ex-wife, co-parent. You know, they don't share the same instinct about they need to look like this or act like this. Or the parent might be like, why did you dress her that way? Or why didn't you brush her hair? All about reflection. This can create tension with other moms, out bragging each other, competition, comparison. And this can create tremendous tension or embarrassment when the children misbehave in public and the mother feels judged. The child can also feel like they can't be their own unique being, but they must fit into a mold of what the parents' values are and what pleases the group. So remember, reflection can show up in all the ways that legacy can show up. But here's where the difference lies. Pay attention. Reflection is about the person. The purpose is, how do you reflect on me? How are you making me look? Are you like me? So reflection is about the person because she's a member of the tribe. Legacy is about the purpose, about the plan, about how we are building something. In both, there is objectification, which is consistent with human animal, which is almost like the child is feeling treated. Not that that's the intention from the maternal figure, but the child might feel objectified. Does this object perform well? Does this object look good? Does this object produce? What does this object represent? And when you objectify somebody, you can reduce their ability to have success or to feel good or to feel great. You are diminishing. You are critiquing. And subconsciously, right, a lot of stuff can happen. When a child is failing in legacy or reflection, a lot of times you'll hear moms given a reason for it because of the tension they may feel for the poor reflection or the failure in legacy. So it could be, oh, my child is not doing well because there's a learning disability, or my child is this or that because he reflects on his father. One time I was at a luncheon and there was a beautiful child and he was handicapped. His legs had no movement. He was in a wheelchair. And she immediately went on to tell me how it was because of the chromosome from the dad's side. And I know reflection was very important to her and from human, because we were, talking about the child's condition and we were raising some money for him. I didn't ask the question. She immediately offered that to me, and she said that in front of the father. And it broke Dave and I's heart because a child was listening, the father was listening, and then she immediately made sure and told us that the disability was not because of her, that it was a chromosome that came from the dad. It can be very painful to experience this tension as a child. And the tension that arises is similar to if you're a lady, or maybe if you're a man. Sometimes, you're having a bad hair day and you feel the need to tell people, oh, I'm having a bad hair day because of this or that. And we feel we need to release the pressure and the tension by justifying. And so if some of you have heartache, have challenges, have sadness, have conflict, because you have experienced this from a parent or a maternal instinct or figure, I am so sorry. From the bottom of my heart, and on behalf of the maternal figure that caused you to experience this, I am so sorry. And there are different methods that you can use to heal that. Dave and I love the Sedona method. It's a great book. You might find some free videos online. You can use Noble Healing. If you want to know about Noble Healing, there's an audio that Alison Armstrong has created exactly to help you. Even if the person can't apologize to you, you can use Noble Healing to receive the same type of impact. Or maybe you get a life coach. If some of you send me a private message, I can recommend somebody great to you. Do hypnotherapy. There are many ways that you can release that trauma, that conflict, that tension, and bless it and release it. Because knowing that the person did the best they could, and sometimes the best they could was to leave. My father left when I was 1, and I felt like a lot of my drive to be successful was to get his attention, because he would hardly ever show up. But perhaps if I had to sing at the kindergarten, I might get a glimpse of him. And I started to think that I needed to perform in order to receive love. And it's taken a lot of coaching, a lot of blessing him, a lot of releasing him. And I have to tell you, by doing that and forgiving, because the best that he could do was leave so that I would have a new father figure come into my life. It was the best gift that he gave me, which at the time I didn't see it. My mom later on told me that my dad wanted me to be a nun and that he wouldn't even let her pierce my ears. And I know that even my dad told me later on, I gave you the greatest gift by letting you go, because I wasn't fit to raise you to the daughter that you have become. I am so proud of you. So let's take a deep breath. Thank you. Just release it. And if you don't release through forgiving, to letting go, to blessing, that trauma gets stuck somewhere in your body, and you're not allowing for new energy to come into your life. The energy of abundance, the energy of faith, the energy of love, they're waiting to come into your life. Sometimes when we worry about something or experience chaos or tension or difficulty, we're allowing that person to live rent-free in our head. When is now a better time than to bless them and release them and thank them? Because even though we may not have received the best care for them, we are stronger because of it. We have more faith because of it. We have treated others differently because of it. And knowing this information, we can create life-changing decisions for our future, for the people we influence, and for how we want to do things. One time, Dave spent a week of his work, of his vacation, to go mentor with somebody that we thought was going to teach him some great things. Dave spent a whole week of his life shadowing this person. And when he came back, he goes, well, put it this way, I learned everything not to do. And that was a great learning lesson. He didn't get what he came for. He got so much more. And that's sometimes the gift that somebody that wasn't empowering may have given us. Human animal versus human spirit. Human animal is focused on who the children are for you. The children end up being disempowered and objectified. Maternal instinct has us relate to our children from who they are for us versus human spirit. A much better question that we can ask is, who can I be for my child? Who does my child need me to be for them? We are much more likely to empower our children when we see the gifts in them rather than the holes or gaps in what they haven't done or accomplished or aren't. And so I challenge every single one of the call. I don't have children, but I have people that I influence. And sometimes when we are leading, we're like, well, you need to improve here. We forget to tell somebody the magnificent parts of them. What if we did more of that? And I'm going to challenge every single one of you today. In the next 12 hours, reach out to somebody that you love. Either forgive or empower. It might be that you need to tell somebody some of the great aspects of them, that we've been so focused on what they're not doing right, that we forget about all the gifts that they have given us or the things that they are doing right. Use your maternal instinct. For all the ladies on this call, whether you have kids or not, use your maternal instinct from human spirit as an invention, as a creation, as helping your child or the people you influence to be a magnificent creation. Who am I for my child? Seeing the perfection in them. We recommend being a mother from human spirit and catch one's own maternal instincts to control their fulfillment of their legacy. Catch the impulse and to control the reflection. To be able to choose instead of what honors the child, what honors the other human being. Whether it's a 5-year-old or a 50-year-old child, they need to hear from you what is great about them. Seeing them and honoring them for your own values. Invent how you are being a mom as an expression of your qualities in harmony with that child's needs and desires and their own qualities. If you want them to be a doctor and they want to be a musician, honor the part of them that wants to be a musician. Empower that. Because or else you get conflict and tension, and then there's breakdown in the relationships. Ask the questions, who am I for my child? For Allison, my mentor, she's a safe haven for Claire. She supports the adventures of Jeff. And she's a source of fun for Olivia, because Olivia's a little serious. So figure out a way to empower. Like I told you my story before. I was pushing Michael, my brother, with my maternal instinct. Be a business owner, do this, do that. But instead he had a huge passion for music. He is so successful in his music career. He has every weekend booked with performances where he gets to share his gift. And now out of all of a sudden, he said, Yvette, I'm ready to build my business now. But he did it because that was highest and best good for him, not because I pushed, because I released that tension that I was putting on him. Human spirit is not about potential. It's about perfection and unconditional love. The legacy and reflection instincts often cause us to do and say things that communicate that they don't have our unconditional love. As a culture, we have this value of potential and fulfilling potential, and mothers sometimes will spend weekends, time, money with their kids to maximize their potential. There's no wrong or right. But what if you could, along the way, give your child that unconditional love and let them know they are perfect? just the way they are. Instinct is activated by the perception of a threat or opportunity. Potential is just another word for opportunity. Human spirit, coming from perfection and unconditional love. I love this quote. The greatest gift you can give a human being is loving him or her just the way they are. Release your wanting to give criticism. Release your wanting to judge. Release your wanting to coach. Sometimes we take away from their lessons when we try to step in. In human spirit, there's the experience of perfection. There's nothing to change, nothing to fix. It is just perfect the way it is. Even with flaws and weaknesses, which we are all human, what if we could see the people that we influence as designed perfectly, just how they are? What if we could hunt a quality or a feeling that we can admire about them on purpose? My coach, Adrienne, she had a great idea. She keeps notes with all the wonderful things that her stepdaughter has done or does. And she always takes the time every single week to let her know how proud she is of the different things that she is doing, accomplishing, or just being. What if who we could be for a child is words of affirmation? And again, I say child, but it could be anybody that you influence with your maternal instinct as a woman or your paternal instinct as a man. To see them for who they are, not just their accomplishments. To see their perfection. To see all the things they're doing that are great. Looking at the being of the child versus what they are producing. One of the questions you can put in your calendar is a daily message. What can I appreciate in them right now? I have a little message in my calendar where every day I appreciate something about Dave. And I take the time to go and look into his eyes and give him a compliment or something that I am so happy to see in him, something he does, something he is. I try not to just focus on accomplishments. I try to do both. And it's magnificent. How often do we do that? Last slide. Synchronizing partnership. Some of the things that we can do is synchronize with our mother figures. Having compassion through understanding. Realizing that everything the mother does or does not do has roots in what was done to them growing up. Recognizing her tension and releasing our own tension. Having a separate conversation with love about what no longer works. Sharing what the cost is to us in our relationship if something is affecting it. Setting boundaries. Your reflection of how I should raise my kids is affecting me, Mom, or whatever it is that she may be criticizing. Even create a code word. So if she's doing it in front of people, you say the code word that nobody else is noticing so that the behavior can stop. Allowing ourselves to heal past wounds because those wounds color our future and those things trigger us. Appreciating the things that we want them to do more of. So if they do something, tell them, I want more of that. I need more of that. And using human spirit to ask and communicate and share. Forgiving our mother figures for the pain that they may have caused. And getting healing, like I said, with a coach, hypnotherapist, however it is, church, whatever it is that you need to do to get that forgiveness and that healing to allow the new to come into our life. Synchronizing with our children or children figures. Notice when it's happening. Have self-compassion. If you're a mom, you're running at 1,000 miles a minute. Forgive yourself. Don't take it personally. You're not a bad mom. It is instinct. Take a deep breath. Consciously choose human spirit. Look at the perfection in them. Choose the bright side. CYP, change your perspective. Empower them. Ask them, what would empower you the most? And ask yourself, who am I for my child? And then lastly, synchronizing with other women. Sometimes you see other women that are struggling with this. Have compassion. When she's in hunting mode, reassure her that her child would succeed. When she's in gathering mode, compliment her on the child's appearance, behavior as an extension of her. Be truthful, authentic, and use love in your communication. And really notice the good in people, that everybody's doing the best they can with the resources they have. So take a deep breath. I want to thank you, my dear friends. This is the end of topic 7. We have an amazing Facebook group. It's called Together We Rise Up. Find it, join it. You will see all the other topics that we have recorded, each one just or more powerful than this one. Life-changing. Worth thousands of dollars that you can have for free. Take advantage of it. Eventually, we're going to charge a lot of money for this. Go to my website, YvetteUloa.com, so you can opt in for future webinars. And Allison's website is togetherweriseup.com. That is our affiliate link. So if you want to buy any of her programs and books, what I'm going to do now is I am going to open it up for questions. And I want to thank you guys so much because you have been magnificent. And I thank you guys so much. Thank you, Fernando. Thank you. This just warms our heart so much because it has changed us. And I have my amazing husband here. And I had a little chat with questions. Can you help me find that?
The chat's right here. No?
Okay, where's the questions maybe? Okay, perfect. So what we are going to, I think some people maybe were raising their hand.
Oh.
So if you have a question, I wanted to introduce you to my husband, the love of my life. He and I learn together, grow together, fight together, and experiment together this information. And he's getting certified in the Understand Men part of the topic. I'm getting certified in the Understand Women. We each get to master 8 topics in a 1-year period. It's like a master program. We have to do research, interviews, do research journals. And so, Dave, thank you so much for joining. We're going to open it up to questions, but could you just share a little bit on your perspective on this topic and just what's been your experience as I interviewed you, as you heard some of the information today?
Yeah, it was obviously so valuable to see how we're so differently wired and how the whole human animal and human spirit show up with and how we respond. And I love listening to you because you do it with so much heart and so much soul. And I was over there taking notes and learning and growing and hearing also the stories that you put into it when you do the interviews is pretty powerful because they're so on point. And it's so interesting because this is like a master's program. And when we're out there interviewing people and hearing their answers and their stories and their analogies, Yvette's just fantastic at weaving in the stories and the analogies. And I heard you share a few of my stories that I didn't know we were going to reveal.
And as hunters, you conceal your personal things. But I figured he teaches this with me. He'll be okay for the purpose of teaching. But it is true, when you're in hunting mode, you conceal. When you're in gathering mode, You reveal.
Yeah. And she knows if it's to serve and to help, then we're good sharing stories. And we're an open book. So authentic and truthful is the most impactful. So well, let's open it up for some questions. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate the nice words.
Thank you, Mav. Thank you so much. And you see yourself as hunter and gathering? Absolutely, hunter and gatherer. And it'd be interesting to see for you, what percentage are you in hunting mode, and at what points are you in hunting mode? And if you watch videos 1 and 2 of both Understanding Men and Women, you will have so much clarity as to how to maximize your life in hunting and gathering. Thank you, Jen, so much. Jesus, we've grown a lot over the last 13 years.
Oh, yes we have. We go way back.
Thank you so much, Fernando, for your great. Could you just share really quick how Queen's Code, when I came back from that seminar and I had read Queen's Code and I started speaking Heroes language, what the shift was for you?
Yeah, so I think we start just by talking a little bit about how things were. And Yvette mentioned that we loved each other, but we were at a place where we were more friends and roommates and business partners than we were husband and wife. And that created a lot of tension and just separation. And we didn't know anything about hunter-gatherer. And, when you have two hunters that are hunters during the day and hunters during the night, and then you're hunting all the way till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, doing presentations, and then you're waking up hunting together. And I mean, it was amazing because we were great friends, but there was something that was missing. And so once we started, she read the book. I didn't know she read the book. We were at an interesting place in our lives, and all of a sudden she came home and things were different. Questions she was asking, things she was how she was listening more, how she was more honoring, and instead of demanding, she was asking. Instead of expecting, she was appreciating. And there was just all kinds of things that started happening, and all of a sudden it started like pulling me, like the best version of me out. And we started having better communication, better conversations. We started supporting each other in a whole different way. And so she mentioned she read this book called The Queen's Code, and she learned something called the Hero's Language. I'm like, what the heck is that all about? So I decided that, let me read this book. What's going on here? And the book completely changed my life. It opened up my mind to how things were and how things could be, and the dynamics that happen in today's world where both husband and wife are working, where years ago that wasn't the scenario, but now how things are, that things can be different if you had some of these awarenesses. And then I also read the book Keys to the Kingdom. And for the guys out there and women, it's an amazing book that helped me to understand the different phases that men go through and what phase I was in and how she could best support me in that phase and how I can best support her in the phases that we go through. And men go through phases because we're mostly hunters and our core is hunters, but women, because most women have at their nature, they're gatherers, they could be through all of the different phases, and in one phase, one moment, and another phase, and another moment, and so they're able to dance with all the phases. But with men, because our core is hunter, we go through these phases at different ages, and it's more predictable. And so how to support the hunter in what phase was so powerful, and so it completely changed the course of our life for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to open it up to Q&A. So if you have a quick Q&A, thank you, Dot. Thank you so much. Actually, he had a compliment. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. If you guys have any questions, and I know some of you are going to go back and look at the videos, would you just share a little bit about what your topic was, topic 7, piercing the masculine illusion, so that people can go back and watch the video?
You're interviewing me, huh? I like it. I like it. That's like, I did all the heavy lifting now. It's your time to close it out. All good. Yeah, my topic, and it's on the Together We Rise Up. It is topic number 7, piercing masculine illusions. And both men and women, we have these fantasies and we have these illusions that if this happens, I'll live happily ever after. Or if this one person shows up in my business, then I'll be successful. or the love at first sight, or the illusion of, oh, it's meant to be. If I hear this, or if this happens, then it must be meant to be. And when we get caught up in those illusions, we get tunnel vision where we don't see other possibilities. And I'll give you a specific example. I was interviewing a young man in Asia, and he was sharing with me that he had an illusion and a fantasy that he didn't realize till later. And he met a young lady online. He lives in Singapore. She lived in Hong Kong, and they created this great friendship and connection, and they'd be communicating with each other for an entire year. And then they finally both decided that maybe it's time for us to meet in person. So he flies out to Hong Kong, and they decided that he was going to stay with her for an entire week. And while he was there, they had great conversations. They laughed, they hung out, and it was a great friendship. And so one of the last nights that he was there, he told me that they went to Disney World, and the most magical place on earth. And at the end of the night, they had this huge fireworks show, and he thought in his mind that this is going to be the perfect moment, as soon as the fireworks show is done, to profess my love for her. And so the fireworks show ended, and he professed his love, and there was this magical moment, and he said she did not feel the same. And it completely destroyed him, because he thought that everything was going great, but he had created this illusion for an entire year that what he thought she was the one. He thought that it was meant to be. And when he looks back on it, he said, because I was so tunnel vision that I missed a lot of the cues that she had actually sent me, that it was just a platonic friendship, that had he not been so tunnel vision with this illusion and this fantasy, that he probably would have picked up on those hints. So that is my topic, and we do it in business. When our human animal shows up, and our opportunity, oh my God, there's an opportunity. And think about it, if you've ever been to personal development seminars or trainings or infomercials on TV, they're masters at pulling on our human animal, because it's not just about a threat that, oh my God, somebody's going to kill us. It is also when an opportunity shows up, our human animal kicks in. Oh my God, I got to buy. Oh my God, I got to get it. And the same thing happens. And if you guys have ever heard of The Game, the book that came out, and this guy that was teaching men on how to basically pick up on women. And that whole philosophy is very manipulative. And what it does is it basically just builds up the language that men are using to pick up these women. He teaches them how to build up so much tension, and that the only way, so in other words, tap into their human animal, that the only way for that young lady to relieve that tension is by sleeping with the man. And it is very manipulative, and it's all about just tacking on that human animal. And Allison, what I love about Allison and her work is that it is all about honoring each other. It's not about manipulation. It's about bringing out the best in each other and coming from, nothing wrong with human animal. But if that's where we live and that's what we make our decisions based on, it's going to produce a certain result. So it's not like you never want to tap into human animal, because sometimes we need to have that energy in order to make change, in order to make transformation. But we want to also have the access to human spirit, where we truly honor each other, and we come from a place of wanting to bring the best out in our partner rather than diminishing their results.
That was wonderful. I love listening to that and learning from a male's perspective. And we have a great question here. How can a single woman who's used to being a hunter 24/7 and being on the defense learn to allow a man to become the protector for her? Oh, Jen, this question just cracks open my heart, because I was that woman that was in hunting mode 24/7. And, I've heard things like a man is not a plan, you don't need anybody, which is true. However, if you want to find that soulmate, and if you're yearning to have that somebody in your life, Opening up our hearts is the first part. But what really did it for me, Jen, was buying the book Queen's Code and learning the things that we as women do to turn off men, to diminish men, to basically become frog farmers. So we have a perfectly great man that could be a king, he's a prince, could be a king, and then we diminish, 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 diminish until boom, they become a frog and they walk away. And so that's what I was doing. I was a professional frog farmer. So in the book, it tells you there's certain things like critiquing, rolling our eyes. There's different things that we do, or, judging, or, just trying to diminish them. There is no reason to do that, but we do that as a society. We do it to other women. We do it to our kids. And so little by little, we diminish people's abilities to produce results. Allison calls that emasculation. So number one, stopping that. Number two, learning to speak the hero's language. 5 magic words in the vocabulary that Allison doesn't even want me to share until somebody reads the book, because they could be used for manipulation. And so until women make a certain commitment in the book and they read it after chapter 3, you will get the hero's language and then practice it on a daily basis. It's so funny how now I have men honoring me day and night, where before I had men objectifying me, emasculating me. It's so funny because even one time I was at Whole Foods. I'm there with my husband, but because I speak hero's language and it's very honoring, I had a guy carrying my basket for me and following me around and helping me, even though my husband's with me. Obviously, he wanted to do it too, but it was just so funny how people will worship the ground you walk on if you speak this honoring language.
I can add to that too. Something that's so simple and yet so powerful is the world we live in today, as Yvette just shared. Women don't need men for anything. They can do everything a man can do, and even more, including having children, that a man can actually bear a child. So the challenge is, because most women in their mind, they're equal to men, and I want to have equality, and I don't need a man. As Yvette said, a man is not a plan. The partnership, no, I'm talking about relationships. Relationships, unfortunately, is all about what are you going to do for me? What's in it for me? For most relationships, it's I'm only going to give you if you give me. We're talking about true partnership. And in true partnership, sometimes there's going to be resistance. Sometimes there's going to be, how can I bring out the best in the other person and honor them for who they are and their nature? So if women today are super strong and they don't need a man for anything, a lot of times women, they won't allow their man to open up the car door. Like, oh, that's you don't need to do that for me. Or they won't, they'll do something that they could easily ask their partner to do, their husband or their boyfriend, but they'll do it themselves and don't open up the door for their man to be their hero. Simple example. When Yvette and I started learning some of these things, instead of her doing everything that she could easily do, she would find little ways, because as men, we are wired to provide. We're wired to protect. And if constantly we're at home and we don't feel like we're providing, we're protecting, or that we can be the hero at home for our wives, even if it's for small little things, then we slowly start to die inside. And so she would find little things. Hey, honey, the doorknob in the bathroom seems to be broken. Would you be able to fix that for us? Oh my God, you know what? It would provide for me a level of safety where I feel like I wouldn't be breaking it more. And so I would be like, yeah, of course. And so now that gave me the opportunity to do something. Honey, I got the groceries outside. In her mind, she could have easily brought the groceries inside, but would you mind helping me bring the groceries? It's kind of dark outside, and it really helped me to feel safe if you could bring the groceries in. It really helped me out. Oh my God, it's something so small, but as a man, this is my wife. I want to provide for, protect her. Of course, now all of a sudden, the hero starts to kick in. And the more and more you can create that type of environment for your partner, for your husband, you'll be amazed what and who starts to show up in your life.
Thank you. And thank you, Jen, for asking that question, because we have been trained by and accepted by our culture to be strong, and only this hunting muscle has been honored by the culture. It's almost like the gathering muscle we have forgotten about. And we got to remember, men have 10 to 30 times more testosterone than women do. So they can run at like full speeds. And us women, we run at the same speeds and then end up a lot of times with more heart attack, stroke, fibromyalgia, all kinds of things, because we forget to fill our tank. The where our brains and bodies are wired is we need to, and our hormones, we need to fill our tank in between running. And so one of the things of this work is learning to embrace your gathering side. What is it that you can do to embrace your gathering side? Maybe take some dance classes, pottery, go for a coffee with the girls without a time constraint or an agenda. Go shopping. Allow yourself some of those things to build your other muscle, because or else what happens is, number one, breakdown of the body, and number two, no soulmate. Because two hunters don't want to sleep together. And so being able to, I learned to pause and honor my gatherer and be able to have a balance and do something that is in one of the videos called transition time, where if I'm in hunting mode, I do my transition time and I go back to being a girl, because Dave wants his queen at home. He doesn't want another king. And so learning to do that, and watch every video of Understanding Men. That's going to help you so much, because there are big differences between our brains that most people don't even know about. And so if we can know that and create partnership and use human spirit, we can truly achieve a level of happiness that most people don't think it's possible.
So I think we got to jump off, because I have another call in just a little bit. And so thank you guys for jumping on. Thank you, Yvette. You did an awesome job. Tremendous amount of respect and honor you for the delivery of today's topic number 7 training. Thank you. Amazing.
And that, my friends, was honoring the hunter in me. Watch video number 1, because he just gave me safety in hunting mode. I need to hear the words respect. Safety in gathering mode is very different. Always learning, always growing. See you very soon.
Love you guys. Ciao, ciao.